I made this decision that I no longer want to be identified as a black designer. Now, that has nothing to do with me changing my race because, like, I mean, can I even do that? Would I want to even do that? No. I'm proud of how God made me, but it has to do with not wanting, I don't want to be recognized or sought after or promoted because of my race. I want to be sought after and promoted because of my actual skill, because of what my actual talent. I don't want my race to be the primary factor as to why someone chooses me or chooses to wear something that I create. And this is something that I decided very recently. I went along with the trend, black designers highlighting, being a black designer. There was a reason why I did it, right? Because there has been a lack of prominent black designers in the fashion industry. That is no secret. And it's very interesting that, I know there's going to be people who watch this and get offended, but it's very interesting because a lot of black designers that I know that were starting their careers around the same time that I was starting in the mid 2000s, right? The issue that we were running into was that whenever black designers were trying to excel in the fashion industry, even those of us who weren't creating streetwear were classified as urban designers. Like, I make gowns, I'm a couture designer, but because of skin color, a lot of us were automatically classified and pushed into the urban category. The same people that are talking about diversity this, diversity that, inclusion this, inclusion that, are the same people behind this whole pigeonholing and this limitation that has been put on black people in fashion. The reason why I'm bringing this up at this time is because of the recent Supreme Court decision around affirmative action and the mixed responses to that. And I get both sides of the argument, right? But I will say this. Why are we not insulted by the fact that we have to be forced or put into a place because of our skin color and not because of our qualification? You see, the issue that I have with policies like affirmative action and the whole concept of needing the government to make a way for us, the issue that I have with that is that it makes government God, lowercase g, because government can't be God. It makes government God. I'm a fashion designer, and I did not come from money. I did not come from a 2-parent household. I literally started with a little Kenmore machine on this, I wouldn't even call it a table, and I just went for it. I had this determination, and I believe that determination came from God. And so I didn't know what I was doing when I started out, right? I didn't know any entrepreneurs. There was nowhere near like the resources that are available now, like on YouTube and social media. Like, hello, social media was like not even a thing when I started. I worked and I prayed. I worked and I prayed. I worked and I prayed. And I'll never forget when I had this little shop in Westchester. Some members from my church came by, and I was like barely saved. Like, I don't even think I was saved at that time. Like, I was just going to church. But God was so gracious and merciful. There was a prayer point that those church members prayed that day, and they prayed that customers would come from the north, the south, the east, and the west. And I never ever forgot that prayer. This was back in 2006. A couple of months later, I was standing in my shop. I was, not in a good space. Things weren't going that great with the business at that time. And two young women walked in and I'm like, hey, what's going on? How's your day going? How can I help you? And they're like, well, we're looking for prom dresses. So I said, okay, prom dresses. What school do you go to? And they looked at each other and laughed. And I'm just like, well, what's so funny? And they're like, well, you wouldn't know what school we go to. So I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, we go to school in Maryland and we traveled 5 hours to get here so that you can make our dresses. Y'all, I had to go hide somewhere and cry because that prayer that was prayed over me came back to mind. And that, I believe, was the start of seeing God move in mighty ways in the midst of me not knowing what I was doing, in the midst of me not having any connections, or I had nothing. I had nothing. I didn't know what I was doing. But from then on, I was able to relocate from Westchester to being in Midtown Manhattan. I was able to show during Fashion Week. I started dressing celebrities, A-list celebrities. I went from being a 17-year-old who started in her bedroom with a little plastic machine to selling my dresses worldwide, dressing celebrities on some of the greatest stages in the world. And I was able to do that by putting my trust in God. When I felt rejected by the fashion industry, when I felt limited by the fashion industry, when I felt limited by my circumstances, when I felt limited by what I didn't have, I prayed and I looked to God. I put my trust in God. I think that there are some things, I'm not a libertarian, right? I'm just not. I think that there are some things that we can require that the government do so that people can flourish in their giftings. People can flourish in society, right? There are policies and things that should be in place, right? However, our faith shouldn't be in a system. What kind of message are we sending our children by telling them that the government needs to be the one to make access, or else they can't be successful? Right? We've had the Black president, we've had the marches, we've had the policy changes, we've had the inclusion and equity boards and initiatives. We have the Black people in the commercials, in the movies, in the TV shows. We have all of the representation we've been asking for and looking for. We have the Black CEOs. We've gotten what we've asked for. And yet, we're still fighting. We're still fighting. Maybe it's time we look to Jesus. Maybe it's time we looked to God. Maybe it's time we put our trust in God. The Bible says this in Psalms 127, verse 1. Except the Lord build the house, the builders build in vain. I do not want my skin color, inclusive and diversity board, the government, or someone who just decided to put me on because of my skin color. I became someone's pet project. I don't want anybody to get the glory except for God, except for Jesus. I want the Lord to build this house. He has started this good work, and he is going to take the credit for it. I think if our community, if the Black community, if we put our focus on God and not just say that, oh, we believe in God, we trust God, but no, actually trust God, actually look to God for the solutions so that he gets the glory, then God will do amazing things, and it won't have to come with strings attached. It won't have to come with us pledging our allegiance to a party or a group of people who want to use our history, who want to use our plight to shoehorn in all this other perverse things and agendas that don't serve us well. So I say all of that to say that it's God who opens doors. It's God who makes a way. The blessings of the Lord maketh one rich and adds no sorrow to it. That's Proverbs 10, verse 22. I'll leave y'all with that.